Hey guys, this is Holland with the Wolverine.com, and the drought is over after going 2 months, actually more than 2 months, without a commitment. Michigan has put an end to that. They've landed a verbal pledge from three-star athlete Kendrick Bell out of Kansas City, Park Hill. And while he's not a momentum-shifting land, I think it gives Michigan a chance to step back, take a deep breath. The drought is over. They are coming off a big recruiting weekend here against Penn State. They are hitting the road this week. Obviously, it's the bye week, so assistants are across the country seeing top 2023 targets. And then they're set to host another big recruiting weekend against Michigan State next weekend. Bell, I think, is definitely an intriguing target. Obviously, he is the younger brother of Michigan wide receiver Ronnie Bell, so that program connection had a lot to do with Kendrick landing in Ann Arbor. In fact, Michigan extended an offer to Kendrick earlier this fall, and the Wolverines immediately began trending as soon as it became clear that he was going to be a take for Michigan this cycle. Ronnie has obviously worked out well for Michigan. He's been one of the true steals in Jim Harbaug's tenure in Ann Arbor. Rodney obviously led Michigan in receiving in 2019 and 2020 before suffering the injury last year, and he's bounced back, having a good year this year, and is one of the leaders of the program, leaders of the offense, and just a guy that everybody seems to really gravitate towards. I think Kendrick can be kind of a similar steal. He is about 6'2.5", 6'3", 170 pounds. He plays quarterback at the high school level. Michigan obviously does not have a quarterback committed this cycle, but Kendrick was taken as more of an athlete recruit. Now, can he play quarterback at the next level? It's certainly possible. He definitely has some athletic upside. Last year, he had some really good stats: 2,267 yards passing, 313 yards rushing, and 30 total touchdowns. This year, he's doing a lot more with his legs. He's coming off a huge game in which he accumulated more than 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he's definitely lighting it up as a senior. He's not a terrific straight line guy, but he has enough speed to get away. He's actually pretty elusive in the open field. He self-reports a 4.6 40 time, but self-reporting can be kind of up and down. On the track, he runs more long distance events, the 4x400 relay and the 400 meter. So I think he's a long strider. Once he gets going, he's hard to catch, but he's not a guy that's a true sprinter. But he can obviously, again, make plays with his legs. And I think as a passer, he's a guy that has a little ways to go mechanically. Doesn't have superior arm strength, but does have adequate arm strength, has pretty good ball placement. He's pretty accurate as well. I think there are some tools to work with there as a quarterback. Like I mentioned, he's really thin. Both halves, upper and lower halves, are pretty thin. It'll be interesting to see how Ben Herbert shapes his body in the weight room once he arrives at Michigan. How Kendrick develops physically could tell us a lot about where he's going to line up in the future. So like I said, quarterback's a possibility. Wide receiver is definitely a possibility. He's a guy that I mentioned his track times, but where he really excels at in track and field is in the jumping event. He participates in the long jump and the triple jump and advanced to the state meet last year in Missouri in the high jump. So he's a guy that can definitely jump. He can go up and get it. He's a guy that would obviously need to learn how to run routes, but I think a guy like Ron Bellamy could definitely help out in that department, as could his older brother, Ronnie Bell, who's developed, again, into a really good wide receiver at Michigan. I think one of the more intriguing positions for Kendrick would be cornerback. When you're 6'2.5" and you have that length, I think that automatically makes you a DB option. Actually, I don't know if I'm just a little biased, but during my time in Texas, I covered the University of Texas for 5 years, but a lot of times Texas would just get completely hit on the head by TCU. Like that, Texas was just not as good at finding diamonds in the rough like TCU was. And a lot of times TCU's diamonds in the rough would outplay Texas's highly touted recruits. And what Gary Patterson did, TCU's head coach at the time, was he would go and find high school quarterbacks and turn them into DBs and wide receivers, and mostly DBs. And he had a ton of success doing that. He would just find the best athlete on the field at the high school level and say, hey, we're going to turn him into something. And that's kind of what I see with Kendrick Bell. I think he could be a DB just because oftentimes at the high school level, especially when you're not playing great competition, the best athlete on the field is playing quarterback, right? So I think with his traits, with his height, with his length, he could definitely play corner. Now, Kendrick didn't have a lot of attention on the recruiting trail. He only picked Michigan over UMass. He is ranked, I believe, as the 1,008th overall player on the On3 consensus. But Ronnie was also under-recruited. So I think Michigan sees something in Kendrick. I don't think it's just a pure, hey, it's Ronnie Bell's little brother, let's just take him to take him. There's been other little brothers that Michigan has passed on. I believe Cade McNamara had a younger brother that Michigan did not show any interest in. I believe it was this cycle or last cycle. So Kendrick Bell is definitely a guy that they saw something in. They're not just taking him because he's Ronnie's younger brother. They think he can have a similar trajectory and ascension, but I think that Kendrick is an intriguing prospect in his own right. Like I mentioned, Michigan now has the number 26 recruiting class nationally, which is not amazing at this time of year, but still plenty of spots to fill, plenty of big weekends to come up. Michigan has 15 commitments with the addition of Kendrick Bell. Not exactly sure how many Michigan is going to take this cycle. Early on, it looked like it could be a full class of 25. They might take a smaller class than that, just given the nature of how this recruiting cycle has gone. But you never know. A lot of it will depend, just like last year, on coaching movement, guys not happy with how their team season is going. Michigan could opt to save a few spots for the transfer portal. They could save a few spots for next cycle. So we could be in for an interesting last couple of months with the early signing period right around the corner. As always, guys, subscribe to the Wolverine.com to get all your in-depth recruiting information. $10 until next football season if you sign up now at the Wolverine.com. Thanks.